Hey y'all, it's LD, and I'm over here wanting to talk to you today about sharing the joy of your hobby, sharing the joy of watch collecting. And this is the message of today's or of this video. I know I look somewhat dressed up right now because I just came from my anniversary outing weekend. I'm actually in the middle of it, and we went out tonight to a block party for a holiday block party. Afterwards, we went to a restaurant down there in Sarasota called Kojo. Shout out to Diego, our server, and to Dustin, the manager down there at Kojo. First time hearing of it, first time even going there. But here's what I wanted to talk to you about today. So Diego was our server, fairly young guy, great customer service, good looking guy. But one thing I noticed while I was sitting there, or while we were sitting there serving us, is that he had what appeared to be a tank style watch. It looked just like a regular Cartier watch. Just very nice, very elegant. And one of the things about a tank is not to see a gentleman in a tank; it's to see a young gentleman in a tank. So I queried him about it a little bit. I said, like, "Hey, is that a Cartier?" And he says, like, "No, this is a Fossil." I said, "Oh, well, it looks like a tank, what they call a Cartier tank." And he's like, "Yeah, I get approached by that, by people all the time, asking me about that." And like, he didn't even know what a tank was, so he was just thinking that a tank was just a strong watch, kind of like what we would call a G-Shock or whatnot. And he came around a couple of times, and then I asked him. I said, "Look, well, what made you get that watch?" And he's like, "Well, as a server there at that restaurant, all the other servers had watches on, and he felt kind of naked." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's a good reason to get a watch." I was like, "But what made you get that style of watch?" And it was a really, really good conversation to know that effectively what made him get that style of watch was that he just thought it looked elegant. He just thought it looked great. When he went into the jeweler recommended it. And for those who don't know what a tank style watch is, here is a tank style watch. This is a regular Timex by Noah tank style watch. And I explained to him with a little conversation about, the history of Cartier, the history of, Santos Dumont, and wanted a wristwatch so that he could pilot his balloons, and how a tank style watch or a tank watch looks like a tank from above over the battlefield. And I gave him a little bit of tidbits, more than what he was asking for, I think. But I think what was important was that I gave him the story behind that style of watch. Now, this is what we do poorly as collectors. As collectors, when somebody asks what kind of watch should we get or what kind of watch should I look at, we instantly go to ROI. We instantly go to resale value. We instantly go. And there was a long time ago that we didn't do that. We just looked at what we liked and what gave us joy and what we wanted to wear. And I throw this out because the watch he had on was a Fossil. It was a Fossil watch. And I genuinely was glad that he had this Fossil watch, that he loved this. And I said, like, dude, this is badass. It's a nice dress watch. It's classy, it's thin. And we were having this conversation because, I had the Lighthouse, I just showed you the other Timex by Noah, but I also had the Lighthouse, for those of you that don't know, on. And for those of you that say that, well, I'm one of those guys that you don't wear a dive watch, I'm not going to get my tuxedo James Bond on with a Submariner or a dive watch on my tuxedo. A nice, classy, elegant tank style or lip style watch that goes well underneath the cuff is acceptable, especially if it's on the leather. And that was it. But we started talking about Fossil, and I let him know. I said that, dude, that Fossil that you have on loses about 15. Well, first of all, I told him, so that Fossil that you have on is more accurate than pretty much almost any Rolex that's out there. I said that Fossil loses about 15 or 30 seconds a month. A Rolex can lose 2 seconds a day, so that's 60 seconds a month when you look at it. And over time, because of that digital or because of that quartz, it's going to be accurate every time that you look at it. And so we're sitting there talking about it. He's like, really? I said, yeah. I said, don't ever feel like, oh, this isn't enough, because it's more than enough. And the fact that wearing that kind of that style of watch, and you love it, and you enjoy every time you put it on, and you feel something, that is what's most important. And I told him that my very first watch that I bought, my very first grown-up watch that I bought, which I still have, I bought this back probably over almost 25 years ago, which is this Fossil Architect. Now, I need to get a new movement for it. It doesn't work anymore. I need to get a new movement. But I still have a Tissot over there. But the reason why I have it is, like, look how beautiful this is. Look how beautiful this is. And it has lume and everything on there. Like, that bracelet is so nice. And tell me this doesn't look like late 1990s, early 2000s. And so I loved wearing this watch. I never thought this watch was too small. I never asked anybody, hey, and I think this may be a 36 too, that I never asked anybody, hey, do you think this watch is too small? And all the questions that we ask on social media now, whether it's on Reddit or Watch Crunch, I just knew that I looked at this watch and I loved wearing it. I loved the feedback I got. Chicks dug it. It was a great watch. And so that was kind of what I said to Diego. I said, you know what? If you're wearing your tank style watch, and I mean, and on his wrist, it looks just really, really casually elegant on his wrist. And he rocks it. I was like, dude, that's all that matters. I share this because I want to say this. I see this in the comments, whether it's on my page, whether it's on other people's pages. I see this in the comments all the time. And we want to yuck other people's yum. We want to, excuse the language, shit on other people's enjoyment of their watches because we don't like it or we wouldn't get it ourselves. As we go into the new year, let's stop doing that. Let's generally enjoy people enjoying their watches as they enjoy this hobby. There is always room to grow in this hobby. I'm still constantly learning. And you know what? There's a guy that I talk to all the time here who has a collection of Jorn. A collection of Jorn. And I mean, when I say collection, I mean a dude got like three or four tourbillons. He has a collection of Jorn. And when I got my Mimosa or my Jack Mason or my Lighthouse, he was really like, oh my gosh, that is amazing. That is great. He was happy for me. And will I ever have a Jorn? Probably not. But one thing I do know is that he and I both share the joy of watch collecting, and we both try to share that joy with others. Let's do that. Let's keep sharing the joy of the hobby. With that, like a fat kid in dodgeball, I'm out.